My name's Angelo, and welcome to We Want Picks. I'm going to walk through the entire UFC Vegas 61 fight card, giving you my picks, my predictions, and my DraftKings plays. We're going to talk about who you should have in your lineup, who you should keep out of your lineup, and give you the tools you need to make some money and build a successful lineup. And we have tools for that as well. Go to WeWantPicks.com. At the top, click Become a Member. It is only $10 a month, and you get all sorts of tools like a DraftKings optimizer. We have an optimizer. It is a tool that builds lineups for you. You literally click two buttons, and it'll build anywhere from 1 to 150 lineups. It will be pre-populated with every fighter, their projected points, earning, their projected ownership, and all sorts of other information so that you can go in there, build a lineup, and make some money. It is only $10 a month, $2.50 a week. With that comes the optimizer, all of our bets, FanDuel plays. We rank DraftKings players by their projected scores. We give you the projected ownership and everything else you could ever need to make some money watching fights. So let's go ahead and jump in. Let's talk about these fights. Let's start to build a lineup and give you the information you need to build your lineup. And opening up the card, we have Randy Costa taking on Guido Canetti. Randy Costa should win this fight, right? He's younger. He probably hits harder. He's very, very busy, landing 6 significant strikes per minute, but he's hittable. He gets hit with 8 significant strikes per minute, which is absolutely insane. That's a ridiculous number. And he is a striker, and a busy one at that, and he is fighting Guido Canetti. Guido Canetti is a very good striker. I think he's actually the more technical striker between the two of them. He's not the busiest guy, but he's got a positive striking differential. He also hits hard. And he's been doing martial arts his entire life, which is a long life, and that's the problem, right? The problem is he's 43 years old. And yes, he's coming off this win over Chris Motino. Chris Motino's not a UFC caliber guy, and it's tricky. I think Randy Costa wins the fight. Do I think he stops Guido Canetti? Potentially, because Guido's just old, and your chin's going to start to go and things like that. But am I spending $9,200 on Randy Costa? Absolutely not. Absolutely freaking not. No way. I do think he wins. I think he gets it done. I'm not spending that price tag. There's an argument to be made that Guido Canetti could potentially win this fight, but I doubt it. This is his first win in 4 years. His first win in 4 years. So I think Randy Costa wins. And if you think he stops Guido and stops him early, then he'll be worth the money. I just don't know if he will, so I'm probably going to avoid spending the Randy Costa money. Then we have Julia Stoliarenko, and she's taking on Chelsea Chandler. Julia Stoliarenko, she's coming off this win over Jessica Rose Clark. It was actually a somewhat impressive win. She doubled right through her, then armbarred her. Great win because her takedowns historically have been pretty trash. But she showed that she could actually get a takedown, and we know she's got very good jiu-jitsu, specifically off her back as well. And that was her first win in the UFC, and like I said, she looked good doing it. She was cracked early by Clark, but she landed a few of her own strikes as well, even though it was a very, very short fight. She's fighting Chelsea Chandler. No data here. She's a UFC debut. This is a really tough fight to pick. The reason I like Chelsea Chandler to win, and she started as the favorite, and the line is flipped, not by much, but the line has flipped. She's now the underdog. She's a big, powerful girl. She comes forward. She'll throw bombs. She'll push you against the cage. She'll take you down. And she's a jiu-jitsu base. That is the base of her mixed martial arts style. So she should avoid being submitted by Julia on top, right? And she should be the one on top because Julia's takedowns outside of that last fight are not very good. So this is a tricky fight. It's essentially a pick'em, especially in DraftKings. I think Chelsea wins. DraftKings-wise, somebody said, statistically, this fight, the 8,200, the 8,000, that fight ends up in optimal more than almost every other, matchup, I guess. It's very tricky. I think Chelsea Chandler wins, and if she gets takedowns and she gets control time, she could actually score pretty well for 8,000. But Stoliarenko is the one that has, 5 fights in the UFC, has the experience and things like that. So I'm probably not going to play either one, but there's an argument to be had for playing both or, picking your side in that fight. Then we got Maxim Grisham taking on Felipe Lins. This is another tough fight. This whole card is full of tough fights. I think Maxim Grisham wins this fight. He is a striker. He throws in combinations. He likes to sit on a big right hand, but he's fighting Felipe Lins, who's a heavyweight. Felipe Lins as coming down. This will be his second fight down from heavyweight. He's coming off that win over Prochniau, where he worked in the 4 takedowns. The takedowns are why I think Felipe could actually be a pretty good play in DraftKings. Listen, you need underdogs. That's just the way the pricing works. I think Felipe Lins is probably one of the better underdogs on this card. It should be a close fight. He's a heavyweight, so he brought that power down with him. He's got a decent chin on him, right? I mean, he's been stopped before, but Maxim Grisham is not a heavyweight. He's a light heavyweight. So I think Maxim probably wins, but I think it's a close fight. And I think Felipe at $7,700 is good value, because if he fights the same way he fought Prochniau, he'll have some success. He will score some points and he will do well. So, I'm not going to have Maxim in my lineup. And depending on the way the pricing works out, Felipe Lins is one of the better underdogs on this card. Then we have one of the trickier fights on the card. Krzysztof Jotko taking on Brendan Allen. I love that they priced it essentially as a pick'em. We have very, very good pricing. We have $8,300 to $7,900. Very good pricing. I think Jotko wins. Listen, Brendan Allen is the more well-rounded fighter. He can grapple, he can strike. He's the more complete fighter. But we've never seen him do both things at the same time. We've never seen him grapple, strike, then transition to the grappling. He's either grappling or striking. He's not doing both. And Jotko is pretty much only a striker, but we have seen him defend takedowns like crazy. He's got an incredible, what's that stat? I have it in front of me here. His takedown defense is 83%. And he's defended a lot of takedowns from a lot of people. And specifically his last fight, he got 4 takedowns against the much better grappler. If we go to Brendan Allen's last fight, he was taken down. How many times was he taken down? I have that here too. Don't you worry. 7 times he was taken down in this Malkoun fight. So listen, I think Jotko wins because I think he's got the takedown defense to avoid being taken down from Brendan Allen. He's going to be the much better striker. Period. End of story. He's not dangerous. It's just a lot of jabs and dancing, but he's going to be the better striker. So I think Jotko dances around, avoids the takedown, touches up Brendan Allen, and wins this fight. But Jacob has Brendan Allen as his lock of the week, and I get it. Brendan Allen's going to be the more well-rounded guy. If he mixes it together, if he's shooting takedowns, then coming up to strike, throwing bombs, then shooting takedowns, he can have success, right? If he doesn't let Jotko hit that defend a takedown, just strike back rhythm, he can win this fight. I don't think that's what's going to happen, right? Jacob and I are split on this. Pick your side. They're both solid value. Brendan Allen tends to score a little better, right? Especially in his wins, 83 in a decision, especially in a fight that he was taken down 7 times. That's good points there. Let's look at Jotko again very quickly. He scores okay. Look at this Mearshart fight, 99. The Serkinov fight, though, 56. The difference between the two of them is the takedowns and the control time. That's what makes Jotko tough to decide what you're going to do with him, because if he's going to come out here and take Brendan Allen down the same way that he did Mearshart, he's absolutely worth this money. Absolutely worth it. But if he's just going to defend takedowns and touch up, I'm going to need more than 50. That includes a 30-point win bonus, which means he only scored 26 points on his own. So another tough fight to pick. Well, not a tough fight to pick. I'm very confident in Jotko, but another tough fight to decide what to do with in DraftKings. Brendan Allen is probably the overall better value under that $8,000 price point, but I'm very confident in Jotko, and the name of this game is picking winners. Secondly, find the finishes. So we'll get ourselves a winner there in Jotko. I probably have in my lineup. Then we have Joaquim Silva making his return, right? This guy fights, look at this, once a year. He's very inactive, very, very inactive. He's had 3 fights in 4 years total, but he's making his comeback, right? He'll be here. This is his first fight in 2022, and he's a jiu-jitsu guy that doesn't use his jiu-jitsu. He has insane power in his hands, but he also puts himself in harm's way. Hack Press put him out. Ricky Glenn put him out, but he does have some power. His last win was Jared Gordon. That was a knockout in the 3rd round, and what was interesting about that is he was losing that fight. He was going to lose that fight. But he kept the power in his hands, kept bombing away, and ended up getting it. He's fighting Jesse Ronson, and this is interesting because Jesse Ronson, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, technically lossless in his last 5. He did submit Nicholas Dalby. This was overturned because of a USADA, a contaminated substance, whatever the hell he's saying happened. But that was overturned, but that was a win. The problem is we got two guys here that just have not gotten very used to winning fights. I do think Jesse Ronson wins this fight, though. He is coming off this loss to Rafa Garcia where he was, submitted, but he was pushing the pace for as long as the fight lasted. His cardio looks solid. He stayed in Rafa's face. He's got his own sneaky power. He's going to be off the juice here, so that may be a factor, but I like Jesse Ronson to win this fight. Joaquim Silva is very, 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 very dangerous, but the guy fights once a year, and you don't know if you could always trust him to do what he's supposed to do when he's supposed to do it, especially he's coming off some solid knockout losses. So I like Jesse Ronson to win. We got another solid underdog here at $7,800. Then we have a couple of old vets. We got Ilir Latifi, who's not as old, but we got Ilir Latifi, and he's taking on Alexei Oleinik. This fight's been booked a few times, but never actually happened. It's finally going to happen here. I think Ilir Latifi wins. I would prefer a discount on him. $8,700 is a lot to spend. If this was the $8,000, $8,200, I'd say spend the money on Ilir Latifi. The problem is, let's look at these stats, okay? Look at the significant strike stats. 10, 5, 18, 33, 25. These are horrifically low. Horrifically low. 10 significant strikes landed in a decision win against Tanner Boser. 5 in a decision. Yes, it was a loss, but it was a decision. He got 3 takedowns. Dude still only landed 5 significant strikes. He's so low volume, but he is a wrestler. He comes forward. He gets the takedowns. He's got some power in his hands, and he's fighting Alexei Oleinik. Alexei Oleinik is not a young man. He is not a young man. He is, how old is he? 45 years old, over 45 years old, and he's essentially submission or bust. This Jared Vanderaa fight was such a typical Alexei Oleinik fight. He did not get a takedown, but he was able to get the reversal and the submission, and he put up giant number. It was ridiculous that this guy won that fight the way that he did. His only losses, his last couple of losses are to Spivak, who's good, Dawkins, who's good, and Lewis, who's good. He beat scroll back up. He beat Verdum. He beat Green. That loss to Harris, Gerald Harris, that's a decent loss. And then he beat, Overeem's a decent loss. He beat Mark Hunt. He beat Albini. His losses are actually to good people. Losing to Ilir Latifi will actually be one of the worst losses of his career. But he's 45 years old. He's submission or bust. He's got no takedowns. So this entire fight comes down to, is Ilir Latifi going to shoot takedowns? He shouldn't. He doesn't need to because Alexei's not going to take him down. So if Ilir Latifi stands up and strikes, he wins this fight and scores almost no points whatsoever doing it. He does have potential to get a takedown, elbow away, get a TKO. I'm in a fade. I'm not going to have Ilir Latifi in my lineup. That's too much money to spend on a guy that does not score very well. If you want to throw Alexei in yours, just hoping you catch a Jared Vanderaa, it's possible. We've seen worse things. I'm not going to do it, but the guy is always live for a submission. Then we got Mike Davis taking on Vyacheslav Borshev. Mike Davis, $8,600. That's an okay price point, right? Mike Davis is a good striker. Mike Davis is a good grappler as well. And I think he wins this fight, and I think he puts up some okay numbers doing it. He's not going to be the better striker in this matchup. Vyacheslav Borshev is a very, very good striker, but he gets taken down a lot. He was taken down 2 times against Bush. He was taken down 2 times in his Contender Series fight, and then he was taken down 11 times by Mark DeCasey. And Mark DeCasey is a kickboxer who worked in some grappling. So Mike Davis is the pick. I'm going to spend the money on Mike Davis because I think he's just going to follow this Mark DeCasey game plan. He'd be stupid not to. Honestly, he'd be stupid. If Mike Davis doesn't come out there and work in some takedowns, he's not a smart person. And I've seen him fight. He's an intelligent fighter. He's an athletic fighter. He's good everywhere. He seems to use his head. I have to imagine he's going to do those things. So I got to go with Mark Davis here. Obviously, Borshev's a nasty striker. He will have power. This Dakota Bush TKO was great. So, he'll be live. He'll be the much better striker, and obviously he's working on his takedown defense. But you don't go from getting taken down 11 times to stepping up on short notice, which this is, and then defending all the takedowns. That just doesn't happen. So Mike Davis, $8,600. I'll figure out how to put him in. John Castaneda versus Daniel Santos. John Castaneda, $8,800. Figure out how to get him in your lineup. I absolutely think he wins this fight. John Castaneda, he likes to come forward. He's got fast hands. He can shoot takedowns as well. We haven't really seen it in the UFC, but we haven't really needed it. And he's stringing together combinations as of late, and he's given Michael Bisping credit for it. He told Mike Bisping, I watched my fights back. I listened to your commentary. You said I needed to put together combinations, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. And that is what he did in this Miles Johns fight. He looked good. He looked good in that fight, put up okay numbers, solid forward pressure, and just sort of relentless there. He's fighting... Where'd we go? Here we go. Daniel Santos. Daniel Santos is a shoot-a-box fighter, so he is violent. He comes forward, tight guard, explodes from there. He's got very good jiu-jitsu, but it's old school, on your back, guard-playing jiu-jitsu, not create a scramble jiu-jitsu, not work up jiu-jitsu. Like, literally, he can get ridden out. That type of jiu-jitsu. He's coming off this loss to Julio Arce where there was a level difference between these two fighters. It was not a great look at all. I think John Castaneda wins this fight. Sexy Mexi. I think he gets it done. Daniel Santos is always live for a finish. He's a very, very dangerous guy. But John Castaneda is tough. He's got a chin. He keeps coming forward. And I think that pressure may eventually be too much. Then we have Sodiq Yusuf taking on Don Shainis. Listen, Sodiq Yusuf, $9,500, most expensive fighter on the card. You should build your lineup around him. Obviously, you're doing multi-entry. Let our optimizer, if you don't know, we have an optimizer. Let our optimizer build some lineups for you without Sodiq in them, because he's going to be the most owned fighter on this card. And if you want the ownership projections, go to WeWantPicks.com, become a member. We'll give you the ownership projections, the point scored projections, the optimizer, all of that stuff to help you here. So if you're doing cash games, you're going to need Sodiq Yusuf because everybody will have him, and he likely wins by finish. If you're doing multi-entry, you can have up to 150 lineups. Let the optimizer do the heavy lifting for you. But Sodiq Yusuf, nasty striker, decent takedown defense. He should absolutely get this done. Don Shainis is stepping up on short notice, making his UFC debut, so there's not going to be any stats here. Listen, he's a tough guy. He comes forward. He doesn't really shoot takedowns, but he'll catch a kick and he'll run right through it. He does a good job in his scrambles, and he's a striker that comes forward. We have seen him wobbled and rocked in his regional fights. This is not a regional fight. This is Sodiq Yusuf. Sodiq should crack him. Sodiq should win by stoppage, and you should probably spend the money. Obviously, we have seen this matchup before. We have seen powerful, dangerous strikers come in here, blow their load trying to put somebody away, not able to put them away, and then lose a decision or get beat. Matt Schnell just did it. Gregory Rodriguez just did it. We've seen those circumstances. Don Shainis is capable of doing that. I don't see that happening. That is not the likely outcome. The most likely outcome is Sodiq Yusuf wins by stoppage. So I will spend the money. He will be in my lineup. Then we have Hani Barcelos taking on Trevin Jones. Listen, Hani Barcelos is very, very good, right? These wins are fantastic wins. He mixes in takedowns. He mixes in strikes. He does everything, and he does everything well. The only time he looked like shit was this Victor Henry fight. That was not a good look. This Timur Valiev fight, you could argue he won. He got defended all the takedowns. How many was that? 6 takedowns he defended. He got 2 knockdowns, and he ended up losing, a really tight decision that a lot of people think he won. So let's ignore the Timur Valiev fight. The Victor Henry fight was not a good look. That's the one that concerns me. But Hani Barcelos is a very, very, very good, very talented, very skilled fighter. He's fighting Trevin Jones, who's also a good fighter. Not as well-rounded as Hani Barcelos at all, really. He's basically a technical striker, but he can be gun-shy. He does have a BJJ black belt, but he doesn't really wrestle, so you don't really see him using it very often. Trevin Jones is very good. He does not let his hands go, ever. And that's his problem. That's why he lost this fight. That's why he lost this fight. He doesn't let his hands go. And if he's going to be gun-shy against Hani Barcelos, Hani's going to come in, light him up, probably get takedowns, dance around, do whatever the hell he wants. Hani Barcelos is the pick, but he will not be in my lineup for 2 reasons. One, he's $9,000, and if I'm spending that money, I want to finish. And so Trevin Jones is not really a finishable guy. Kakramanov submitted him, but that dude's an absolute animal. He's a tough guy with a good chin, solid striking. I don't see him getting put away. I love Hani. I have bets on Hani to win this fight, but I'm probably not going to have my DraftKings lineup because I just don't really see a stoppage. Then we got Randy Brown, Francisco Trinaldo. Randy Brown's $9,300. And it's a tricky price point. He's phenomenal. Randy Brown's very good. He's long. He uses his length really well. Solid striker. He's pretty good everywhere. And he's really sort of come into his own as of late, and he's looked very good doing what he does. The problem is he's fighting Francisco Trinaldo. Francisco Trinaldo is another one of these old guys. He's 42 years old. No, he's 44 years old. This last knockout that he got against Jai Herbert, he did that at 42. He's 44 years old. And he hasn't really looked old. He doesn't really look like he's aging. The problem is he's going to look old soon, and I think it's going to be this fight. I think he's going to have a hard time getting in on Randy. Randy's very long and uses that length really well. So I think Francisco's going to have a hard time getting inside of that and getting it done. This last fight, he did not have great takedowns. He had 0 for 1 in takedown attempts and just stopped trying because it was obvious that he wasn't going to get the takedowns. But he did land a ton of strikes, completely outstruck Roberts there, Danny Roberts. And that's just a testament to how well-rounded Francisco Trinaldo is. He can out-grapple you. He can outstrike you. But again, I just think this fight is going to look old. He's going to be a step behind. Randy is fast and he's long. I see Randy winning. The reason I said it's tricky is $9,300 is a lot of money. If you want to have Randy and you want to have Sadiq Yusuf, then you're going to have to shoot your shot on some of the underdogs that we broke down earlier. And then we have the main event. We got Mackenzie Dern taking on Yan Xiaonan. Mackenzie Dern, phenomenal jiu-jitsu. Everybody knows that. Her takedowns are piss freaking poor. Piss poor takedowns. 9% takedown accuracy. One of the most laughable, ridiculous, embarrassing stats on planet Earth. Period. But she's proven that she is stupid tough. That woman will not stop coming forward. Her face could be run through a meat grinder, and she's going to keep coming forward, keep striking, keep pushing you against the cage, and keep trying to win that fight. She's fighting Yan Xiaonan, or Xiaonan Yan, who's a striker, through and through, a striker. Now, we have seen her get takedowns. She took down Karolina Kowalkiewicz 5 times, Marina Rodriguez twice. But that's because those are two very good strikers. And Yan is smart. She said, I need to get the takedowns here, right? I got to lock this up. But she's not going to be able to do that against Mackenzie, but she should be able to outstrike Mackenzie Dern. She should be the better striker. So this is a 5-round fight. The question becomes, can Mackenzie Dern get this fight to the ground? Because if she can't, she likely spends the whole fight getting jabbed in the face and then a bloody mess. Even if she continues coming forward, she'll be jabbed and bloody and likely losing those exchanges and potentially decision. But if she can get a takedown, or if she can tie Yan up the same way that she did, Mackenzie Dern's coming off that win over Tisha Torres, she didn't get a takedown, but she was jumping, pulling guard, throwing up triangles while standing, pushing forward. Tisha Torres was so worried about being taken down, she just didn't even factor in the potential for striking or anything else. Yan could be in the same boat. Yan could be so worried about being taken down that she's not worried about her offense, only worried about her defense. I like Mackenzie to win this fight. I think Mackenzie probably does get it to the ground at some point. I think it's 5 rounds. I think Mackenzie just comes forward, stays busy, stays in Yan's face, eventually gets to the ground and gets it done. I don't know if she's going to win by finish, but I do think Mackenzie Dern wins this fight. I'm not going to spend the $9,100 on Mackenzie Dern. There's a very clear path for Yan Xiaonan. And if Mackenzie Dern had better takedowns, she'd be a lock. But she doesn't have better takedowns. While I do think she wins, and she's an incredibly high-level athlete, and I think she's, going to continue on this path of success, I don't trust her $9,100 worth. Not when I have a Trevin Jones. Not when I have a Sadiq Yusuf, a Daniel Castaneda, John Castaneda, and some of these other guys to work with. So not spending that money. Guys, that's my breakdown. Go to WeWantPicks.com. At the top, click Become a Member. We have the DraftKings Optimizer. I cannot stress enough how valuable that tool is. It'll help you build one lineup. It'll help you build 150 lineups. It is an incredibly valuable tool that will help you make money. We've given you DraftKings ownership projections. We're ranking every single fighter by salary so that you can figure out who you should put in your lineup, who you should not put in your lineup. All the tools you could ever need for bets, for DraftKings, Prize Picks, Monkey Knife Fight, Underdog, everything else. FanDuel, WeWantPicks.com at the top. Click Become a Member. It's $10 a month, $2.50 a week.